For many, fried chicken is synonymous with being black. It's always present at parties, Christmas, or Thanksgiving. And of all the foods on the dinner table, chicken, or more specifically, fried chicken, always takes center stage. But why is a food which is so loved by people of all races and backgrounds only associated with blacks? To fully unravel this topic and understand how a simple dish became a symbol of discrimination against the black community, we must trace our steps back to the early 1900s, during the time of the American Civil War and the slave trade. How fried chicken became known in history. Believe it or not, the origins of fried chicken can be traced back to ancient Rome, where it was first mentioned in the Apicius cookbook. However, the art of frying chicken advanced significantly in the Mediterranean, where the introduction of spices and seasonings enhanced its flavor. And then, thanks to the mashup of Scottish frying traditions and West African culinary skills in the southern United States, our good old traditional fried chicken was born. Now, let's talk West Africa. They brought in these fantastic techniques, like marinating chicken and crafting these amazing spice blends. That's the secret sauce, literally, behind the unique and mouth-watering taste of fried chicken. This mishmash of influences turned fried chicken into this comfort food sensation, now loved worldwide. Big shout out to the Scots for shaking things up and introducing the concept of frying chicken. A real game changer, unlike the European norm of baking or boiling chicken. Another historical evidence spills the beans on the Scots and their centuries-old tradition of deep frying poultry in fat. The famous writer James Boswell spilled these details in his diary about a dinner he had on the Isle of Skye, which was basically a fried chicken feast. Yup, they were rocking the crispy goodness way back then. But the question remains, if the Scots are credited with the invention of fried chicken, why is it labeled as a form of discrimination against the blacks? How the blacks revamped fried chicken in the US. So, the story of fried chicken in the US has some interesting twists. Firstly, we know it all started in Scotland, and then the Scottish immigrants came into America and brought the concept with them. But it wasn't until the enslaved West Africans arrived in America did things really get exciting. And no, Colonel Sanders of KFC wasn't the inventor of the crispy fried chicken you so love. In fact, according to an article published by Snopes, it's speculated that he stole the original recipe from a black woman named Miss Childress. Well, that's a story for another video. So, while the Scots only relied on a simple frying technique without much seasoning, it was the West Africans who changed the game with lots of aromatic spices and herbs. The result? Fried chicken became a sensation in American cuisine, thanks to the culinary innovation of the enslaved Africans in the past. But when the enslaved Africans first arrived in the US, they were faced with a whole new food scene, ingredients and cooking norms that were totally foreign to them. But they were expected to adapt, and adapt they did. Chicken, which was a staple in West African cuisine, became their go-to meal. So they worked their magic to make it fit into the American culinary scene. These guys weren't just cooking, they were innovating. They took their rich heritage and fused it with the local flavors, turning fried chicken into a true American masterpiece. Imagine having to switch from palm oil, which the West Africans mostly used for frying, to lard or pig fat. Talk about making the best out of what's available. The dark era of slavery. During the slave trade era, chickens played a surprisingly significant role in the lives of enslaved people. Amidst the harsh restrictions they faced, chickens emerged as a rare exception as the animals they were allowed to keep and nurture. Beyond providing sustenance, these feathered companions became a symbol of independence and a chance for enslaved individuals to carve a small niche of autonomy. For them, raising chickens went beyond mere survival. It had economic implications too. Some days they were given the green light to trade or sell extra eggs and poultry, a little economic exchange in a world where opportunities were scarcer than hen's teeth. But there's always a but. If a chicken was sick or met an untimely end, there was no funeral involved. Nope, instead they had to make the best of a bad situation and turn the unfortunate poultry into food. This was when cleaning, seasoning, and frying the meat in hot oil became the secret sauce to avoid letting good food go to waste. During this period, fried chicken wasn't an everyday indulgence, but a luxury reserved for special occasions. The recipe may have been simple, but the preparation demanded considerable time and effort, often hindered by a lack of access to proper kitchen tools or even poultry itself. Nevertheless, the irresistible taste of fried chicken began to spread across the southern states, firmly intertwining the African American community with this iconic dish. Post-Civil War, fried chicken went mainstream with mass production and pocket-friendly oils became available. But racial laws were still raining on the parade of job opportunities for African Americans, especially women. But being the resilient bunch they were, these women turned into entrepreneurs. They started selling their homemade fried chicken, a Sunday special, to travelers. It wasn't just about survival, it was a genius move that ended up boosting Southern railways and solidifying fried chicken as a Southern staple. One spot where this hustle thrived was Gordonsville, Virginia, a blink-and-you'll-miss-it town with a surprising claim to fame. Imagine passengers on trains rolling in, and local women, known as weighted carriers, passing fried chicken, biscuits, and pies through the train windows. It was like a drive-through of the 1800s. But alas, good things rarely last forever. By the turn of the century, dining cars became all the rage on trains, and stricter regulations threw a spanner in the works for platform food vendors. So the curtain came down on this innovative tradition. The Great Migration. The Great Migration came, and many of the enslaved people, now African Americans, moved into other northern cities. And of course, they took their culinary traditions with them. Most importantly, their beloved fried chicken. After a while, it became a staple meal for the African Americans, and they would eat it after church on Sundays. It was known as the gospel bird or the Sunday cluck, and this culture continued until World War II. During this time, it was still very much difficult to prepare and also mostly eaten on special occasions. But as the 1950s rolled in, fried chicken became even more popular due to the rise of fast food chains like KFC. Many of the food entrepreneurs saw America's love for fried chicken and thought of a smart idea. Why not mass produce it and sell it fresh to customers? Soon enough, the food that was once only eaten by enslaved blacks became an international sensation. However, during this period, fried chicken also became racially tied to African Americans, and stereotypes around it grew widely. Need to add, this was during the Jim Crow era. Blacks were beginning to be portrayed as poultry thieves, with a ravenous love for food, especially fried chicken. Another instance that spotlighted blacks as predators, unintelligent, and lazy was the 1915 film The Birth of a Nation. The film casted African Americans in a bad light and labeled them as dim-witted and ill-mannered. In one particular scene, elected black officials were drinking large bottles of whiskey and with their bare feet on the table, while another was angrily gnawing on a chicken bone. That imagery sowed the seed of disgust towards the black community, and this carried deep into the 19th and 20th century. It didn't even stop at just movies. The media, TV shows, and advertisements also carried this narrative to insinuate that African Americans were nothing more than unintelligent, lazy chicken thieves and eaters. Tiger Woods receiving racial slur. You would think that after many decades since the American Civil War and the era of slave trade, that the stereotype surrounding fried chicken and blacks would become inexistent. But no, it still lingers. In 1997, during the Masters tournament, the highly celebrated professional golfer Tiger Woods, who has attained many great heights, had an ugly share of racial slur by a fellow professional golfer, Fuzzy Zoeller. Here's how it happened. Woods had just won his first tournament. Meanwhile, Zeller, a veteran on the PGA Tour, had not won a single tournament in the last 10 years. So, when asked about Woods' performance, he applauded him for the win, but then added the statement with the fried chicken stereotype, saying, "Tell him not to serve fried chicken next year, or collard greens, or whatever the hell they serve." There have also been other instances of using the stereotype of fried chicken against blacks, and this racial stigma continues to take root even till this day.